Hey, what's up? It's Jim, and today I'm going to talk about Relative. Now, Relative is a kind of smaller movie. It is about the members of the Frank family as they come together as the youngest member of the Frank family, going to be graduating college and moving out, and they're sort of having a party for him. A lot of big revelations come out, but specifically that the two parents, Karen and David, decide to announce to everyone that they are selling the family home as they were going to be empty nesters, and they no longer need to have a house with that much space in it. I find this film, the idea of that, interesting actually, and a great idea for a film, because I remember when that happened with my parents. It wasn't, to be clear, this is anticlimactic for me, because it doesn't represent as much to me, because it had occurred to me years before, what are they doing this big house by themselves? It doesn't really make a lot of sense. And so when I was a little more like, I mean, yeah, you probably should. I know that upsets people, so I'm not gonna, don't take my self-awareness as not having a soul or something. I sort of dealt with it 2 years before it happened or something. But I do think that can be a very shocking thing, but it also brings to mind any family gathering when everyone comes together and all the bonds you have for everyone, which I think this film does very well, actually, and shows everyone's different personalities and their responsibilities and their own baggage and things like that. I do think sometimes when you watch films like this, you have this thing where you see everyone, I have been in family things where there's 20 revelations from people, and you have ones where like nothing happens. Obviously this is not one where nothing happens, because why would you want to watch that movie? But it sometimes when you see everyone get together in a family thing, you're like, why do all these people have things? And you're like, well, normally everyone does have a certain baggage or a certain revelation or a certain thing going on. You just, most people shut up about it and stuff, so you don't know it, and then when they all come together, you suddenly are sort of confronted with it. And it is interesting having, you have the one sister who's very depressed, is coming there with her wife and her daughter. You have the son who's living there just smoking weed all the time. His life's falling apart. You have the son who's graduating college, who's met this cool girl, Hexagon, with Hecla. Sorry, it was Hecla. She's from Iceland, apparently. This is a cool name, though, despite my butchering of it. And then you have the sister who has, like, presumably nothing, although they think they sort of hint at stuff in this. I do like this film. I thought it was very relaxed. I saw a few reviewers compare it to Mike Leigh. I would agree with that. I do think it, much like how Mike Leigh is very British, I think this is very American. I can't speak to really that area of Chicago or anything like that, but it seemed to remind me of just like American kind of liberal parents living in a big house, dealing with that kind of gathering. To me, felt very real. Everyone does have their messy 20s and 30s and coming together in these things, and sometimes you bring too much to your family gatherings and things like that. So I do think it addresses that as well. Also, like, other members of the family, like other people's spouses and stuff, and you got so used to some of these people, you want to go, oh, I'm gonna have a drink with this person. Or I liked how it dealt with that as well. But also, that moment when everything's going to change in your family, and that does feel very dramatic, and like, how could they take away this thing? But I also like that it showed the parents' perspective, because I do think that's something, I don't know, I have a different feeling on this. Like, maybe I would review this film differently if I was in my 20s or something like that, or didn't go, yeah, you should move out and stuff. I didn't realize the matriarch of this is played by Wendy Roby, who was in People Under the Stairs and Twin Peaks. And Twin Peaks is Nadine, and she's been in some stuff, as well as her who plays her husband, Francis Goonan, who I've definitely seen in stuff. Particularly, he was in Erie, Indiana, so that's kind of cool. I did not recognize either of them while I was watching this movie, so it says something about both of them as actors, because they're both things I watched a lot, so you'd think I would know. Like, when it hit me, I was like, oh my god, of course. And like, but before, like, I didn't expect it, maybe, I don't know. But I think there is a sweetness to a point to this, but I do think there's a matter of factness to taking on a family dynamic like this. But I also like that is, regardless of anything, that is a major moment in a family. The idea that you will not go back to your childhood home as much as like, oh, we're going to this place again. You sort of rely on it and that major change. But also the idea that, everyone, all of your siblings are out of college, because most of, when you have siblings, most of their life is going to school, doing this, doing that, and that everyone's going out, except for the brother who smokes weed in the basement and stuff. But just seeing, which family members having a good time, which one's succeeding, which one's being quiet and stuff. It did remind me of the multiple dynamics. I think you could have seen things like that on a show like This Is Us recently and things like that. I don't mean that as a takedown. I mean that as a compliment, to be honest with you. But I don't see ones that remind me so much of my own family, remind me as much of my own family gatherings and coming together and thinking of all the various different personalities, as well as this does. I guess my only real complaints are sometimes I think it's a little like written and wordy in times. I do think screenwriters always do this thing where if someone's in a conversation, they bring in their own witticisms, which I think this film does a little too much. But at the same time, overall family vibe of this, I quite liked and got into. So I think it says something if you're able to capture kind of a family coming together and a family changing in the way that Relative really does. So if you've seen Relative and you would like to talk about it, then comment below in the comments and subscribe if you would like to.